Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of Seeking Profit. My name is Emil and I am joined as always by Andrew. I feel like you're gonna commiserate with me on this as a homeowner. So I can hear a leak through my walls in my office. Connects to the master bath, right? I hear a leak.
Water?
Yeah, like a water leak, but there's no water coming out of the faucet. Usually, you hear a leak, it's like, oh, maybe the handle's broken, water dripping. So no water coming out of the faucet, no wetness on the wall saying there's an active leak or whatever. So I think we have a foundation or slab leak, and that's where I'm hearing the hissing sound, like after diagnosing it with a plumber. And dude, I have to pay $400 for somebody to come out and bring their pipe stethoscope to find out exactly where this pipe is broken. And in LA County makes you check your walls for asbestos before anyone can open up the walls to do the plumbing stuff. So I literally have to pay $1,200 before the plumber can even fix anything in my home.
Dude, that's a risk, because then if you know your house is asbestos, you have to disclose that when you sell it. But if you don't know...
Or I could just rip that thing to shreds and play dumb, no asbestos. I mean, we'll be here for a while, so I'm not super worried about it. But dude, homeownership, I love it and hate it all at the same time, personally.
It's mostly the worst. It's but I own this place, so I could just punch a hole in that wall or just do whatever I want. But you'll actually never do any of those things.
No. Yeah, my wife is
I want to
home.
Kick me out.
Yeah, my wife is like, I want a home so that we can do things in. I'm like, you can't do things in a rental. In fairness, once my wife got pregnant, I was the one who was like, we need a home. It was this weird nesting thing that took over. So,
I mean, if Laura was like that for me, I'd be like, you want a place to do things in? Let's just get a shipping container delivered.
Yeah.
Put a hole in there, we just hang out in a shipping container. It's so cheap.
I know. Why do we need to buy a house? So today we're talking about Google updates hitting our sites, or the sites we've been involved in. And I think you are going to kick it off with talking about Listen Money Matters, how you guys got hit with an update, how many years ago it was, what you guys did, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Well, how many years ago? I don't even know. Too many. It was 4 or 5. I think about 5. It was when EAT rolled out. So Authority, or Expertise, Authority, Trust. Now it's EE,
Yeah.
AT. And
EAT.
Let's keep adding E's, maybe a Y at the end or something. And we got slammed. And
for anyone who's not familiar, Listen Money Matters, personal finance site.
Right. So when you think your money, your life, we're heavily in the money part. We're we think you should do this, not this with your money.
Yeah.
And so got crushed. I don't have a CFP, CPA. I have no letters next to my name. Aside from my last name, that's next to my name. So we assumed it was an Authority thing, and we hired one of, I told you the name of the people. We won't say the name, but I would say one of the most trusted names in SEO, especially specifically around EAT and stuff like that, and pay them about $10,000 to help us resolve what we thought was an optics problem, because we were above board all the way, deeply cared, spent enormous amounts of time trying to create high quality things. So we thought this was optics or some stupid technical thing.
What?
And
can I ask you a real quick question before you go on? Why did you guys, was it widely published on, SEO, Search Engine Roundtable, I don't know, all those SEO sites, that it was an EAT update that hit a lot of sites? Because a lot of sites, I'm sure, in Your Money, Your Life got hit. How did you guys know? What led you to think it was an EAT thing?
you know all those things like SERP Sonar, like Google Wind or whatever, all these like sites that track like volatility, and then
Okay.
there's like Search Engine Journal that will publish things.
yeah.
And it was like everyone was talking about it. It was like the thing.
Okay.
You know, pictures of sites getting crushed or, you know, doing really well. We were pretty certain it was this, and we did have like discovery call with the agency before we started.
Okay.
And if you've ever done a discovery call with any consultant, the answer of the call is that you should hire them. So I could have been like, I have a leak in one of my pipes in my house, and they would have been like, you should hire us. We're the best SEO agency for the job.
The way to bring it full circle. There you go.
That's right. And you know, so we paid them $10,000, which I argued with Laura about to wit's end. We felt like we were SEO experts, we knew, and you know, what are they possibly going to know or tell us? And even when we were doing well, $10,000 is a lot of money, and I'm not one to waste money just for the sake of it. That's like a really awesome vacation. So
Yes.
we hired them. They gave us a whole like ridiculously long audit, whatever. And we followed a lot of their, you know, like obviously we thought about it. We're like, does this make sense? Does that make sense? Followed it. And in hindsight, I think a lot of it actually made things worse.
Interesting. What? So, like, can you walk us through some of those recommendations? Did you guys do all of them? Did you do some of them? Walk us through.
So one of the there were a lot of recommendations. You know, some were as inane as putting, you know, your authority in your author bio, so that it will be clear that you have the authority to write on this topic. Which now that advice has not aged well. Everyone was like, that's ridiculous that anyone did that. We did that. Like I made everyone on the team update their LinkedIn profile. You know, it was like a whole thing. One of the things
I don't think so. I think just to kind of, for the sites we build out, I do ask our writers to like, do you have a Twitter? Do you have a LinkedIn? I think you're right. Maybe it's nothing, but like if I'm reading it and I can see that this is a real human versus just like staff or the site or whatever, that at least signals to me that maybe it's just an experience thing. Maybe it's just like, okay, as a reader, I know it's a good site. Maybe I come back to it, whatever. And so like that helps with the SEO, but I don't think that's like the dumbest thing to do personally.
No, I agree. You know, look, we filtered all the things through our brains and try to do what makes sense. The way that they had sold it to us, not like they had to sell it to us, but they basically were like, this is a very like human determined thing. And they had us read the Google rating reviewer guideline doc. I probably at the time, and it's changed, read it so many times. I was obsessed because my business like thirded or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, well, we have to put all these things in place so eventually when a human reviewer comes back, they'll be like, look at that bio. Beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. It's not a big lever. You're right.
One of the things that they were really obsessed with, and I pushed back, and people had said this to me and eventually did it because they recommended it. They thought that because we had all these like show notes, some were just 200 to 300 words and they never amounted to anything. We just had left them. We had backlinks, whatever. But there was a lot of content on the site that was just lean. We had existed for a long time at that point. And they said that the proportion of high quality to low quality content was not good. And so that we needed to cull those, you know, create redirects, stuff like that.
Okay. So did you guys do that?
So we did that.
Okay.
We audited the entire site. We removed a ton of things from the site, redirecting to other things, tried combining pieces of content. And it didn't really help. And in some cases, I think it was part of a downfall.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way the site was is, you know, if there was a specific episode, like say we did an episode with Susie Orman, right?
Okay.
And it wasn't like those were great show notes. It was actually a pretty bad conversation.
Yeah.
She's not a great person to talk to. Has a pretty bad attitude.
Susie, in case you're listening,
come at me, girl. Come at me. And
I would imagine she just talks in a lot of like sound bites, very fluffy. Like has done so many interviews that it just like feels just robotic, right?
She didn't even care. She was like, was going to give us 30 minutes. It wasn't even 30 minutes, and she's like, I have to go, and just left. Like,
see ya.
And he was like talking to a wet noodle. Anyways, so like that was the lean show notes, and so it's like, kill it, maybe redirect it to the homepage, the show page, whatever. But we had built up all of these like really highly specific backlinks to all of these things kind of automatically. And I think what we wound up doing is really destroying our backlink profile by cleaning all this stuff up. Because while maybe that article should never rank for Susie Orman or anything like that, it was a valuable piece of content that people linked to because of the conversation and whatever. And then it didn't appear. It just disappeared off the internet, and it pointed to a page that wasn't about Susie Orman.
Right. I mean, it's normal for a website to have a ton of pages that aren't made for search, right? Like you shouldn't kill them just because they're not providing SEO value. I would say you do that if you have a bunch of articles you tried to rank, right, for SEO purposes, and it's like, this one didn't rank, this one's kind of similar, let's group them, redirect, whatever. But like, I have clients who they have a podcast, and they have a bunch of like dead weight SEO pages because they're like podcasts and show notes, but we leave them there because people like listening to the podcast. They like going to the show notes that are on the site. Like not every page on your site needs to have an SEO purpose.
And I wish you had told us then, because like we just kind of were crazed. And I can imagine it's like, what should you do when you get a Google update? Go take like a sip of whiskey and like sit down and don't do anything, right? Just like relax, because we did a lot of knee jerk things, I
think that's everyone's like first reaction. It's my reaction too. It's like, especially the first time it happens, right? You're like, oh God, let's change everything, right? Like instead of kind of methodically saying, okay, what changed? What are those sites? What are they doing? Versus what do we have? Like what's the difference here? Like really trying to pinpoint the exact difference in implementing that. But okay, continue. What else did you guys change or try?
We combine things, stuff like that. But I think we also perhaps tried to find a problem where it didn't exist. I don't even remember if we recorded this conversation. We were talking specifically about the best Vanguard Fund article on Listen Money Matters, and how what might have happened is not that the article became bad, but we were ranking for this massive amount of terms like best Vanguard funds for growth, best Vanguard funds for retirees, and Google got more wise to the intent, where me, a 20-something-year-old writing this thing, it's more oriented towards growth, absolutely not a good article for retirees.
Right.
And so these things got peeled off, and we viewed that as like them murdering our site, because Google didn't like us, where maybe it was more along the lines of they were fixing intent so searchers were better served. And it wasn't not Listen Money Matters. It was just that these things don't make sense for this article.
Right. Yeah, that's common one too.
But we took that as like an actionable thing we had to do, so we started like messing with stuff.
Yeah. That's a common one too, where like you think you're getting hit by Google, but it's like they're just maybe changing how they look at long tail. Maybe they want to split it out into more different more intent across long tails. Let's serve up more stuff, or they consolidate one way or another, right? And you could still rank very well for your head term, but you're not paying attention to that. You're like, oh no, this page has decreased. It's like all of our pages have decreased. Google like is not looking at us favorably anymore, where again, you have to play detective and see like what changed, what were we ranking for before, where we're not, where are the specific fluctuations. And so,
yeah, I think if you haven't done like something specifically bad, I think, like say you were using AI content and you got hit, like I think it's reasonable to assume it was because of your AI content. But if you're not doing something like that, I think you have to like try and not think the worst, and like, what if there's like more intention behind this, and it's not a negative against you, you know, because the problem is we made all these changes, whatever, but then we carried on business as usual, or we just tried to rank for all this broad stuff, or maybe we should have like circled the wagon, focused on our core area expertise. We were creating like fun things to do on Friday night, like ways to get free Amazon gift cards. We're like, we could rank for anything. We might as well do it. But you know what? In the audit, none of that stuff came up because like you want to like buy the answer, but no one will care as much as you. And so they're not really looking at what you've done. Like, how can we get in and out in an hour, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, as a consultant / agency myself, sometimes you prescribe advice and it just doesn't work. Like, not to just completely shit on this agency. You're right. Sometimes like people just don't take a good look and they're like, all right, we're going to use a broad, here's what everyone needs to do, instead of like really honing in, especially on like, I think this is where like, if you're very active in a certain niche, right? Like I work with a lot of prop tech companies. So I see what's changing across prop tech, because those results are going to be different from info content sites, from other, like each Google change affects industries differently. It's like, it's not like broad strokes, everything changes the same. So I think when you find people who work in a specific industry, they can like more tailor those recommendations to like what's going on there.
I think one of the maybe differences is like if someone goes to work with you, like they work with you. We went to go work with this woman specifically, and after, you know, the credit card transaction completes, we're handed off to someone else. They're, you know, letting us know that, oh, this was discussed in the team meeting and, you know, whatever. But, you know, we wanted to work with the authority. We thought we were paying to work with the authority, and we were like, we're getting her to like glaze her eyes over it.
Right.
So.
Right. I had the same experience when I was in-house at a lot of places. It's like, that was my least favorite thing about agencies is you know, the face of the agency is who you want to work with because they're smart. They've been doing this forever. And like the way most agencies work, it's like you just have to hire really junior interns or people fresh out of college to make the numbers work. And it sucks. So I've tried to make that different in my agency. But okay, anyway, you have made these changes and like nothing changed for you guys?
So it wasn't like we super recovered. We started climbing back again. You know, I was still doing Listen Why Matters to a degree, and I started doing Lasso because I felt like I needed to, like I felt like Google was just going to kill it. So I needed to like kind of eject and take some bags of cash with me, you know, before the plane explodes or whatever. But then it got hit again. I think it was like a second round of this. And the thing is, so many sites that were not NerdWallet or didn't have CPA, whatever, you know, they were fine and exist to this day. We have customers of Lasso that, you know, are ranking for these things. And so I actually think that there was maybe something specific, or we should have, I paid for a distraction and put way too much value on it.
So this was an example.
I'm a little butthurt about it.
I can tell. Well, so, I mean, I've looked at the Ahrefs chart and it was like you guys had you fell off the cliff and then you guys had a little bit of a come up, right? Was that from implementing these changes? Was that you guys doing your own stuff from what you had observed? Like what resulted in that climb back up? I think that's probably a good takeaway for people.
So we identified other areas that we thought we could grow into that wouldn't necessarily require EAT. So something like a review of a financial product, or you should invest in these funds, we felt like required the expertise. However, we thought that, you know, more informational pieces that could be monetized would work well. So we started to essentially document portfolios. So like the Yale portfolio, the Ivy portfolio, the Golden Butterfly, the you know, all these things where there was no good resources on them, and then we could like link to an M1 Finance pie and monetize it. And so we really heavily pushed into that. And to a degree it worked. I think we were just so distracted and broad. We really needed to like pull our focus in. Get rid of the fun things to do on a Friday night. Like, it ranked, but it didn't do us anything.
Right. And your topical authority, if that's a thing, like gets spread. Although, man,
Diluted.
speaking on topical authority, it's like you see so many examples of it not being true. Like, I don't know, random sites are starting to do, I forget the example. I think you talked about it in a different episode. It was like a random site talking about like the best laptops for small business owners. And they, it's like some very general
blog.
Yeah. Like here's the thing with a lot of Google updates, the big guys just get favored more and more, which is, it's tough, man. Cause it should be the sites that have topical authority, right? Like if you are talking about, if your site's just about laptops, you should be the one, like you review them, you've held them, that's what you talk about. It shouldn't be just some big site just because they have a big site, but that's how it goes sometimes, especially in certain niches.
We've seen examples where it's like against all odds, the small ones winning, the small fighters winning. I think it's
Lasso.
Like easy to
Lasso. You went up against big sites, right?
Yeah.
Or not Lasso. GiftLab. Sorry.
So GiftLab has identified one in the ClearScope presentation. The best Vanguard Funds article on the essentially defunct Let's Only Matter site still is in the top 10. And apparently we have no authority. And so I think like you just have to win in more areas. Like, so if NerdWallet's going to post up because they just submitted an article, you need to actually like check every box and you could beat them. But dude, I wanted to hear your experience. So you were with a company that got hit as well, right?
Yeah. So, again, this is like I think the nomenclature matters. It's not necessarily hit, right? Like hit sounds to me like Google has lasered in on your site. You're penalized. Boom, you're done. I think it's more like they changed how they're serving things up and you need to adapt. But yeah, we were on the wrong side of a Google update, right? So we lost 20% of traffic in like a month. This was when I was at Roofstock. So same thing, right? It's like real estate investing, money related. These always get hit the hardest from what I've seen. And so, yeah, your first reaction is like panic. Like, I have director and CMO and stuff like, yo, what do we do? What's going on? And it's like the first thing you have to do, I think, after seeing this enough times, it's like you have to just go take stock of what happened, right? Like, what are the pages? I go into Google Analytics, like what pages got hit the hardest, right? Are there groups of pages? Is there like a theme behind which pages got hit the most, right? So one thing we saw, we had a lot of geo-targeted pages, right? Targeting certain cities, real estate markets, things like that. And I noticed that a lot of them that had been ranking 1 to 3 had now fallen into like the 5 to 7. So it was like a certain type of article. We had templated it, did a geo-covered style with it. I noticed those got hit pretty hard. And what I saw when I went to the different articles, like we hadn't updated our content in like 6 months. Everyone else had just updated it within the last like 1 to 3 months, right? They had like more updated stats. The last updated date was fresher. So that was the first thing. It was like, now we said, okay, actually I didn't realize this in the beginning. We were like, all right, let's just go update all the stats that need to be updated in this article, make it fresh. And then boom, like literally the average on these articles was 5 and it went to like 3. You just see them one by one. Oh, wow. Week over week, they're bouncing back up to like 1 to 3 spots.
Were they like carrying you on their shoulders, like celebrate, Emil, like save the business?
I mean, here's the thing. It wasn't like that alone was the only thing that worked. I'll talk about like what else we had to do. These things, like, it's never a quick recovery. This was like 3 to 6 months and we were back to where we were pre-Google update. And then we saw new highs. But that was one thing. And then what I noticed was with those same groups of articles, 3 months down the road, if I didn't update them, same thing. We'd get bumped down. And Google's just looking for freshness on these types of searches. Like, they know it matters, the certain market stats, right? Like, what is the median home price last month, not 4 months ago? That's irrelevant now. So sites that had them, just fresher content, ranking better. Other thing I noticed, again, big sites got favored, but a lot of sites with backlinks pointing to these articles were ranking better. Just, no surprise there. Backlinks, authority, you rank better usually. And so like with Roofstock, we had been doing some more like general link building. They had a very good PR machine going and just building authority to the site, but we weren't doing any like targeted backlink building for specific articles that were like super important for the business. So
it was all like brand based initially.
Exactly. It was like the rising tide just helped us, right? The whole site was doing well. And so I just noticed like we got bumped down on a lot of other important keywords that a lot of the top guys just had more backlinks. So we started doing targeted backlink outreach for these specific articles. And then after 3 to 6 months, things came back, and then you go on to new highs. So that was one scenario where it was like, boom, 20% dip in a matter of weeks after an update. And it's just like, man, I think it's just detective work. Like, don't listen to SEO journal and whatever. Like, yes, they have themes, and I think those are all well and good, but like your industry may be affected differently with each update. Like you have to like go do the searches, go see what changed, try to find those trends. And that's what I go off of versus just like, oh, this was a spam backlink update, whatever, right? Like,
it's like not house on fire, but like almost like galvanized. Like at least if I lost 20%, at least I should understand why specifically. And then like in that pursuit, you found pockets. And in this case, it sounded like the solution, update these articles was easy, but it's only like after you go through this whole long path and check all these things in 100 spreadsheets, that, then it's obvious. But you have to kind of like look first.
Right. And sometimes that doesn't work. Like, yeah, this was a story where things ended up being okay. Like sometimes that's your hypothesis and it still doesn't really work out, right? And you have to like keep playing detective or you just give up. I don't know. One or the other, right? You just keep trying things or you're just like, all right, forget it and move on. But yeah, I think people's first reaction is like, we got to change everything. And it's like, not necessarily. Like we've built a really good foundation doing these main pillars, right? Creating good content by somebody who knows what they're talking about and building links, which I think is like 90%, 95% of SEO. Like you don't need to necessarily completely change the way you do things. Like, right. That was one thing I harped on. I was like, guys, we still need to create content. It's not like we're done. Like, let's keep the content machine going. But like, here are the things I'm noticing and what we're going to try and see if it works. So,
yeah. And maybe it's like worth looking at it like, well, the free lunch is over. We were really lucky. We're getting a lot of like good stuff because they weren't looking. Well, now like they're treating us like everyone else. So we just have to be better.
I think it's like really obvious when, like you probably mentioned, right? Like if you have a AI site that you literally put 1,000 pages up in a week and you grow massively really fast and then you fall off a cliff, like it's very obvious, you got penalized, you got caught and it's over. But like if you're doing things the right way, right, it's different.
Over the course of like Gift Lab's existence, at least 3 times it's been hit and we've done nothing. Mostly because we're like, based on the format, we're like, we don't really know what we should do. I mean, do you need authority to do gift lists? Like gift authority?
Yeah.
So we left it and it came back. And so I've seen like a million graphs like that where site gets hit, review update, whatever, a few months maybe go by and it recovers. And so sometimes Google makes a mistake. And so you could even like read it as your site is wrong. You have to fix things, delete things, whatever. And it's actually like you should be pumping the brakes and just waiting it out for them to fix what could just be a bug in their update.
Right. Or sometimes that, or they just change things, right? Like you said, I think we recorded a different episode on this, like what would we do with Listen Money Matters? And I told you, your site used to rank for probably a lot of best Vanguard funds, like all the long tails, because Google, you used to write like a 5,000 word article and you'd clean up on all the long tail. And Google's got more serious about like, what is the specific intent of this search? So that was like the key takeaways. You guys needed to create more specific content versus like the ultimate guide to this more broad topic.
Yeah, and I think if anything, like it shows that there's like always a window opening. You know, the door closes, it's like done. You can't create a personal finance website or whatever, and then a window opens where Listen Money Matters was owning this one term across how many keywords and whatever, and they kind of put us in the intent that makes sense. And all of these sites that created these things that were hyper specific, now all of a sudden like they blew up, and so maybe they think like, oh my god, now I have authority. Where actually they probably should have ranked all the time, and it just took Google a little bit to get there.
For sure. Yeah, or they were paying attention and they switched their strategy quicker and cleaned up on it.
I wish that was me at least once.
I didn't want to say anything, but I'm like, yeah. Do you wish that was you? Do you wish you got?
Yeah.
I still think you could,
on the
man.
crest of the trend.
I still think, and we recorded that episode. I still think you could go make some changes. By the way, we need to do a follow-up episode to see if you've been implementing anything.
We have been. It's right now. It's like low water tide because we're recording in December.
Okay.
But January is like when it's off to the races for personal finance.
That's right.
So we'll see.
All right.
We've been making changes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Hopefully you have some cool stuff to talk to us about. Make a little case study. All right. Do you have any? I think you had one more site you wanted to talk about besides Listen Money Matters.
I kind of like lumped it all together in musings. I think it more sings again to like the whole Vanguard funds example where intent shifts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, now it's like, Google, I think the next big thing is, everyone thinks this, right? Like with AI, how good OpenAI's tools gotten with ChatGPT, like now what's going to happen? How is like Google going to come up with their own way to answer a lot of like, simple queries where it was like, how many eyes does a horse have? Like, are they just going to have their own answer for that and like not have any sides and just be like, this is it? So it'll be interesting how things change, man.
It sounds like they're seeing the same things that are problems with ChatGPT in that like the AI is confidently wrong.
Yeah.
My dad was like just like asking questions, and he was asking a question. He just bought like a new BMW or whatever, and it was like, that car's not for sale. And then my dad replies in chat like, I actually own it. And then it's like, oh, sorry, we don't have data past 2021 or whatever. And it's just, Google can't have it be wrong. It needs to be right. That's hard.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, I was using it and it was wrong. And so like my trust quickly eroded. So Google, like they have to play that really carefully. Like literally you serve up wrong stuff and now Google, people don't have trust in Google. Like
that will screw the business more than ChatGPT will.
Agree. And man, this is all of us, tech nerds, especially on Twitter, where like everything tech related just blows up way before the masses have even, got a sniff of it. So
I just want to wax poetic for a second because I think people are really afraid that like websites will not be, needed anymore. There will be no more bloggers. It'll just be AI. And we're like such early adopters. And like, if you think about it, like how like the interface in the iPhone, when you search the address bar, you type things in, or in Chrome, or all these places where you actually search, and all of that has to change to be oriented around chat. It's not just going to like change and like blogging's done. Like there's a bit of time and then an adoption curve.
Yeah, maybe things will change. Like, we could be those like boomers and we're completely wrong. There's people who I think will always go to early adopt and completely change what they're doing. I'm kind of like, man, if this thing's still working and printing me money, I'm going to stick with it until like, cool. If more people want to abandon ship, and I'll just, it seems way too early to be like, this is going to change everything. I mean, people remember like chatbots for websites. Everyone's like, oh, you won't even need like me as a business, everyone's going to use my chatbot to get exactly the content they need on the site. Like, and now it's the same, dude. It's a chatbot that like poorly answers your questions, tries to point you in the points you in the wrong direction on a site. And then you're just like, can I please speak to a human who knows what they're talking about? So we'll see. Maybe we're just the boomers who were completely wrong, and we'll be eating our words, but I don't know.
Well, I guess, we'll see if this ages well.
Yeah. All right, man. I guess it's a good spot to wrap this one up. So follow Andrew at Andy Phoebe on Twitter. I'm at Emil Shore. And as always, check out the show notes in the description of the show, or go to seekingprofitshow.com, and we will check you all out on the next episode. Later, Andrew.
Later, man.
We're seeking profit. We're seeking profit. We're seeking profit. We're seeking profit.